Fall always feels like the most fleeting of seasons, as if time itself quickens with the turning leaves. Before winter makes her blustery entrance, we invite you on one last autumn walk through our naturalistic gardens and landscape, where fading blooms and rustling leaves whisper a gentle farewell to the season.
Good morning in the garden. It is definitely fall. We were trying to get out here for a fall tour earlier on, but we just had so much work to do in the landscape, and fall came really quickly. So you're not going to be seeing so many leaves on the trees, but you can see all the seed heads are up on our gardens here in the Pollinator garden. Also in the herb garden, though I think I'm going to come in here and get some of these fennel seeds and feed them to some of the chickens and whatnot. But I like to leave the seed heads up for all of the songbirds, especially if I'm not feeding them in the winter, or if I forget to feed them, or if I'm traveling. It's very nice to actually have all this forage for them during the fall and winter months. I haven't yet cut back any of the things here in the walk path. That's probably a thing that we're going to be doing soon. All the tall vervain, Verbena bonariensis. And I am surprised, but this Gora, this Enithera biennis, or Gora biennis, is still flowering, but I have not seen any bees. There's something about fall that is really pretty, especially if you leave your gardens up. And then here we have the front garden bed, which we are just finishing, and I have some interesting tubers and bulbs and corms that we're going to be planting in here. So I may have mentioned this, but every year I try to get a little bit of our Virginia bluebells. So this is our Mertensia virginica. And they come as these pretty like horizontal rhizomes. And they're quite expensive, so I figure if I just invest a little every year, and they will obviously multiply on their own, but I got 10 of them from Dutch Bulbs, and there's some local growers as well, but Dutch Bulbs has a really nice, they grow them I think more in mass, so you get a better price on them. So I have a number of them. I'm just going to slide them under this newly laid garden bed because we were working on this before. And what you need to do is just slightly put them under. I haven't found that animals dig them up. I did plant some tulips in here, however, and I do think some of the animals may have dug those up. But these don't need to go too far under. And I'm just gonna slide those in. I'm a little late on the game of planting all of our bulbs in, but we'll get to most of that probably today or tomorrow. And these bloom in spring. They're one of our early bloomers, and they get a beautiful bell-shaped, almost campanula-shaped, but tubular bell flower, blue, pinks. It's usually kind of a blue color. That's why they're called bluebells, but you know, when they're not pollinated, they start off with maybe a little pink, then turn blue and purple, and they're just very beautiful. A little different than like what you'd see with the English bluebells or the Spanish bluebells, which can be a little aggressive here. So I choose to do the native kind, and the bumblebees absolutely adore it. All right, and one more. Blues in the mulch that we put here with the Espoma potting medium. So let me just show you these close up. You can see the little growing tip right here. So some people might want to plant them down this way, but all you need to do is plant them horizontally, almost like a peony, if you ever planted peonies. You can see that all of this plumbago really colored up nicely, which is, again, one of the reasons why I love planting it here. It just has beautiful fall color. And then this is the Amsonia right here. This is one of the cultivated varieties, and it grows lower. So some of our native Amsonia, the Hubrichtii, which I'll show you soon, once it hits the 3-year mark, it could be 3 feet, 4 feet tall. This one stays quite compact, and you can see it gets this nice chartreusey yellow color. But the maple, it's completely defoliated for the fall. And let's just go down to the pond and take a look at it. We've been having little duckies on the pond. But you can see all the goldenrod. Goldenrod went out early this year, and I think a lot of the pollinators were like, what gives? But we have all the sedges looking really beautiful, and we never cut this back. All of these seed heads stay like this, and we never have to mow it down or hedge trim it. This is our Physostegia right here that's gone to seed. And then this is one of the tree asters, and let's see if it ever went to seed. Yes, it did. So those are the little seed heads. This is Baccharis halmifolia, and it's typically native to kind of the New York, but along the coastal areas. And we have recently seen that growing at one of the nurseries, which we're going to be giving you a tour of in New Jersey. It was really neat to see it growing in mass there. Sunlight is just so warming on a day like this. We'll come up here through our gardens. This is the weedy backside of one of our gardens, which eventually will be a project on our land. Not this year, but I've tried to keep this pretty low, so you can see that I haven't really planted any tall plants in here except for the backside. And here is our 4-season garden, and I think it's looking pretty strong. What I could come and do in here, if I'll show you closely on one of these, this is a great example. So I don't have my snippers on me, but I could really clean this up. You see all these, what looks like dead branches. This was all the growth this year, and you can see this is the insignificant yellow flowers that come off of this wormwood or this artemisia. This is a cultivated variety called Silver Mound. I could come out here and just clip off all these stems, and let me just show you if I could break some of them off. Compost these, and then you get this cute little bun back again. So this is going to be next year's growth, and that could keep it quite kempt if you want it looking kempt. But the view from this garden, especially when the fog is rolling in the morning, the sun is just coming through that fog. I'm very pleased with this carex. I don't know if it'll be hardy, but it's really holding its own at least through 3 seasons. We'll see if it emerges in the spring. I also have this Schizachyrium scoparium. I'll have to get you the cultivar name of this, but this is one of our little blue stems, but a really shortened, kind of compact version. And then even this Aster October Skies, we'll go down to the Meadow House Gardens. This is still in bloom, but down there, it's completely out of bloom. So I'm really loving how this turned out. Just the other day, I started planting a bit more back here. So this is our Artemisia frigida, different Artemisia, frigida silver eagle. And my mom did a great job kind of taking out as much of the mint out here as possible, but you'll see that we have still quite a few weedy plants. I will show you the Nepeta. I did get a couple more varieties. I just planted Nepeta chartreuse on the loose, and this I planted earlier in the year, and you can see how it's spread out, but again, stayed compact and quite low. So I think this is a really nice front to border plant. It takes sunlight like a pro, so I'll probably be planting more of that. I just got some good end of season deals on this, you know, when nurseries are just trying to get rid of their plants left and right. Some folks have asked to see our compost pile, and I'm happy to say that our friend just called us the other day to see if we wanted a load of wood chips, which I was not expecting to get wood chips. But Sandra and I have been putting our grass clippings directly on top of wood chips in our orchard area right here. So you can see that we've built up quite a veritable amount of wood chips. We're leaving all the asters and the goldenrod that have moved in around the trees in here. I don't think that they're really competing too much. And we planted a bunch of Camassia lectlinii in here from, we had some leftover from color blends. And so my friend and I took on the effort to put in like probably hundreds, I would say, of Camassia. But let's step over here. So this is our compost pile. It's really a mixture of the wood chips that came in, Saunders sawdust, and some extra weeds and grass clippings and we've been putting in here. And we had our friend come over with his skid steer and we had 3 piles of it. He just kind of pushed it all together. So it'll probably get much hotter at this stage, but this is an insignificant amount of compost. We'll let it sit over the winter months, but for us, this will just be eaten up in the landscape in no time whatsoever. And this was, I think, a silver maple that our friend Jason cut down, so it's all maple chips. He did get caught in here yesterday. It took him probably about 15, 20 minutes to get out, right? It was really hard. When he was, you could see this is like some of the great compost. He thought it was solid ground, but it was just like where our compost piles were. So I was telling him to stop, but he just went right for it. You'll see that our ilex, our winterberry, is in full fruit right now. It had a lot, but I'll tell you what, I saw cedar waxwings and robins on this. It was so cool.
Touching the ground. That's how heavy
yeah, it was really heavy. I don't know what cultivar this is because this was here before us, but I really love this. You could even cut off some of the stems and use it for flower arranging and things like that. But man, the amount of cedar waxwings that I saw flying around yesterday was really cool. I mean, and those are just pass-through birds. They're on their migration route. From my experience, these usually stay on up until February, and then they get a little like bledded, and then, you know, then the robins kind of attack them. Someone asked to see our meadow and if we've been pleased with the results of the meadow, and I would say it's been a pretty good experience. I've talked about this before separately in another episode, but one of the things that I wish we had done with our meadow, because we didn't have, well, two things. Two things that I wish we did with our meadow is that we had enough seeds to seed this meadow to begin with. And we didn't. We had 40% seeds, but that was just the nature of the beast at that time. There was a seed shortage and there was not much that we could do. The second thing I wish we would have done is actually mowed it down in the first year, because none of those seeds, especially because most of them were perennial, were going to crop up. But if we actually mowed down that seed bank in the beginning with all the Daucus carota and everything like that, we probably would have had a slightly different mix in our meadow. Although it's really hard to say, because it's not like we did a test plot like that. But that's what we've heard that we could have done. You could actually see some of the sunflowers here. We had a ton of asters this year, and the goldfinches have just been loving the heads of the goldenrod. We have some panicum out there as well, some of our native Panicum virgatum. It was a really beautiful year, and each year it's just slightly different. So given the conditions that we had with the meadow, all the trash we had to take out, the amount of prep for this type of unique site, I'm pretty pleased with how it has come to be. We had a lot of our neighbors say, well, you're just gonna have fields of goldenrod, but that may be true maybe 10 years down the line, but we just don't know yet. And I think that the goldenrod, we have probably about 11 species in the mix in our meadow and on our landscape. So if you just see goldenrod, you're probably not seeing all the different types of goldenrod that we have that bloom at different times during the year. So it's not all simultaneously.
Yeah, but there are a lot of fields around here that are just one.
It's just one, it seems like one goldenrod. But look at these beautiful asters that we have.
Yeah, this year was really heavy on the asters.
Very heavy on the asters. And we even found some really beautiful ones that are like light pinks and lavenders. My friend came over and we collected some of that seed. So that was really exciting. And when we come down here, I'll show you how we're managing the meadow. Here's some more of that panicum. This is the Panicum virgatum. And we have the seed heads up. I found that these are also really pretty for flower arranging. I like to take some stems of those. And for me, the seed, especially at this time of the day, with that silver light coming through against the heads of the goldenrod, it's so beautiful. This is where the panicum stemmed from. You could probably see there's a huge clump right here. And it's because I think I planted this one. And this was a cultivated variety that has a little bit more of that glaucous colored leaf. And wow, look at how it's spread through here. I can understand that if somebody's not really plant oriented, they can't see the difference. Like our neighbor will come over, and we love our neighbor, but he gives us such a shade, and he's just like, oh, look at, you're just growing a bunch of weeds. Obviously, we don't see it that way. Here's our Bouteloua kerchopendula. So this has really thrived in this area because you could see this is heavily gravelly. So, we had 4 to 6 inches of gravel in some parts, especially on the paths that were here. So I found that this really thrives here. One of the grasses that I didn't see come up this year, or at least go to flower and seed, was our grease grass, which is our Tridens flavus. Last year it was around this area, and I saw the leaves come up, but I think because it was so cold this year and the flowers kind of didn't last, and even the leaves on the trees, they didn't even turn a color, they just turned brown and they fell off. And I just think plants were caught off guard because the 4 years that we were here, it was really late snow. Like we didn't have snow until December or January. So this is an area that we are now managing, and you'll see that we keep it cut down. And this was largely because of a couple different reasons. One, we started planting some trees in here. So you'll notice that we have some clumps of trees. Many of them have lost their leaves. And we also have an invasive grass. And we're managing for spring blooming plants. So this clump over here has a lot of Zizia aurea, and we have a lot of Polemonium reptans. So those are spring blooming plants, and they are kept pretty low. So we're managing for that. This, as you may recall, is the wildflower sod that we had rolled out earlier in the year, like in September. My friend Daryl and I had done that. We prepped the land. I actually even brought in some of our Asclepias syriaca, our common milkweed, and I even spread some in here because there's some, bare spots. And I was like, oh, it'd be nice to get some monarch food in here. But it may look a little brown, but it has definitely taken. I mean, the roots are in there. I don't even know where the wildflower sod ends and begins. This is where we did the plugs and we left all the seed heads up. And obviously some of the seeds are going to probably seed back into the wildflower sod. This is our front of border garden. It's pretty amazing because this whole area, we had taken up a lot of geotextile material. This was a garden that was designed when the nursery expanded and it exchanged hands. And then this little meadow house that we renovated here was actually the nursery office. And they had done this whole garden with a bunch of geotextile material that I almost broke my back on. We took it out probably 3 years ago now. So we brought our friend Steve over, who has a tractor, and he was able to tear out some of the rest of it that I didn't get out. I got about 2/3 of the way. Then I knew we wouldn't have time for this bed. And so I just layered it with cardboard. I think I used all of our cardboard here and had to come back to put more cardboard because we ran out. And then I just so heavily mulched it, which is not typically something I would do with such a heavy mulch because, you want to always make sure that the mulch is pulled away, and sometimes it creeps up on the base of the trees that you plant or the trees that had been planted here. So you don't want the mulch right up to here, you see that? And this is one of the trees that I had planted in there, which is this weeping birch, and it has since really grown beautifully. I also love the color and the seed heads. Look at the red stems that this Spirobolus heterolepsis is taking on. And eventually this Spirobolus may just go away because it likes to be in a full sun condition. But I still think we get quite a bit of sun through here. Let's go check out the Meadow House gardens. I just planted in a bunch of tulips throughout here. So I did get a head start on the tulips. I still need to plant some alliums and a number of others, but I took the dahlias out. They're now in storage so we could actually plant them up next year, provided that nothing attacks them over winter or they don't freeze. So this is pretty exciting. It's coming together, and I'm really interested to see how a lot of these perennials will fill out. you could see some of them are already filling out quite nicely. So we have Polemonium, Aquilegia, Achillea, geraniums right here, and anemones, our native anemones. So we have quite a lot of things that are kind of milling about this area that will spread and will seed and are looking pretty good now, but it's still such a young garden. Front of border here, I might actually have some plants that I need to plant in here. Yes, snake's head iris, I'm gonna plant these. Green, they're kind of short, they're about 10 inches, and they have this kind of green speckled appearance. I thought it was pretty neat. They may not be cold hardy enough, but I'm gonna try it down here. Pretty soon I'm gonna need to take care of our roses and our clematis. This one's grown up really nicely, but I gotta come down here and probably put a little bit more mulch and substrate on the roses and the clematis for the winter. Now I did plant a bunch of colchicum in here, and it came up, it flowered, and then it was gone. And then look at all these mushrooms. It almost looks like a brain, doesn't it? And this rose seems to be growing out of its container. I kind of kept them in these little containers so they wouldn't get eaten in case a deer came in, but we've been really lucky. Our deer fence has worked extremely good.
Yes, yes.
Yes, which means we got what we paid for. So these gardens are less than a year old, believe it or not. We have all of our Liatris spicata that are up. I'm leaving this up because I know the goldfinches absolutely love these. The buds on the trees are looking quite good. Oh, we even have a cucumber squash beetle there. That's strange. Looks like he's on the buds. Well, I'm gonna take you off, mister. Some of the October skies, actually these are quite good. On the other side, they went to seed. This is one of our spreading roses that gets a beautiful red flower, and I noticed it was flowering pretty late in the season. Some peonies that I recently planted in here. And then this was our dove tree. And this is one of the trees where, if I could show you, it was like the leaves just basically didn't turn any color, they melted off. But look at these beautiful fat buds. So hopefully next year this is gonna look pretty good. I took the fence off of our cabbage just to give somebody some food during the winter. I think these looked really beautiful. I did plant a bunch of vegetables in here. Look at that kale. I mean, I could probably cut that down and feed that to our birds if we don't want to eat it ourselves. I mean, this garden's coming together. I wouldn't say that it's nearly finished or nearly in the place that we would want it. One of the things that I'll probably need to do is take in some of these pots in the winter months. That's going to be a big job because it took a long time to get them out. I'm tempted to kind of leave them out in the winter months, but I'm also afraid that they're going to crack. What's interesting about this garden is that the Nautia Macedonia right here, which has this beautiful, I mean, what color would you call that? It's like a crimson magenta. It's a beautiful color. And then this Liatris right here, still in bloom. That's our Liatris scariosa variation newlandii. The Nautia is kind of knitting itself throughout and also in bloom. These late blooms are great for any bees that happen to be still in the area, which I can't tell you if they are or they aren't, but it'll be interesting to see how this garden fills out next year, because this was one of the fuller gardens. It's one of the first gardens that I had worked on in this section. I have the table out here because I do have to plant up a number of these with some of our bulbs, and I'll probably be keeping these in our chicken coop, which we'll have to give you a tour of in maybe a number of weeks. We're still working on some of the details like the trim and things like that, so we want to give you a full tour. But we're going to be getting poly panels on the side of that chicken coop. It'll kind of be like a cold greenhouse. So I think this would that actually area would be the perfect place for me to store some of these pots, and I won't get any rodent damage on them in the winter months. So I was thinking of that. This is one of the calamagrostis grasses. Most folks will know Calamagrostis Carl Forrester, which is the grass that we have planted in our pollinator garden. But I wanted to get this one. I can't think of the species name. It starts with a B. It's like Bracteosa or something like that. And I'm really happy with this one. It could actually handle a little bit of shade as well. So I planted it here where some of the trees are going to get a little larger, but it's handled itself fairly well in this kind of partial sun, partial shade condition. And I really love the plumy-like seed heads. And then over here, what's interesting is I think I got a tulip tree. I'm gonna have to remove this and we're gonna plant this somewhere else. Look at that cool leaf. If you've never seen that leaf shape, it's so neat. So it's called.
Plant that?
No, it came off of another plant. So it was probably just a seed in a plant that I had planted in here. This will get massive, so I'm gonna have to move this. This is one of our native fringe trees. It's done extremely well here. It gets that little fringy white flower. It is in the ash family, so it is susceptible to emerald ash borer. However, this is a multi-stem tree, so it never really gets big enough, I don't think, for the ash borers to really care for it. So this is an experiment on my part to see if it'll push through. And then my friend noticed the other day when he was staying down here at the Meadow house that this looks like it's starting to bloom again. And he was questioning why that was. And I said, well, you know, really early in the year when we were changing out the deer fence, the deer came in and clipped off all of these.
Oh, yeah.
So it's as if you clipped it in order to get a second bloom. We could probably cut off these stems and use it, you know, force it to bloom inside. But I think I'm just gonna let it do its thing out here. And this is amazing. Look at, there's still a strawberry on here. This is one of the ever-bearing strawberries. And I don't know if I should probably take this in or maybe take it on the other side where it's a bit more protected. This has been giving fruit all season long, and I actually saw on our camera one of the foxes come up and eat the strawberry here. I'll be taking in some of these agave. Again, the agave are cold hardy, so I've left them out. I'll probably be taking in this vaccinium because I think this is a zone 7 vaccinium. But everything's kind of going to bed now, which it's nice to see. You know, there's a seasonality that I really enjoy within celebrating the 4 seasons here. I showed you when we were planting this up last year, October. This was so tiny. This is a physocarpus. It was just a cutting off of one of these. And it's massive now. So yes, we could cut the branches back, but it has the space, so I'm gonna let it fill out. There's quite a lot that we still wanna do here, but this is our fifth year. Sonner moved here in November 5 years ago, and then I got here maybe 2 years ago, more fullish time. And so yeah, you're celebrating our 5-year anniversary here. It's in November 2025, and I feel like we have been able to accomplish a lot. Even these trees have gotten quite big. It's interesting that this one is still maintaining its leaves here. And even our native chestnut, we'll see if this one will push through and not get chestnut blight. That's one of our Native American chestnuts that have seemed to be somewhat blight resistant. But that's our 10-cent fall tour, and we'll see you here in another fall, in another season. Bye.